Get ready to reimagine the future of humanity and unlock your true potential. Welcome to Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, hosted by Dr. David Gruder, an internationally renowned integrative psychologist, human potential expert, author, and social change catalyst, as he delves into the most urgent issues of our time. With the world facing unprecedented challenges and social and political divides growing deeper, it's time to take action. Each episode of this groundbreaking series will empower you with invaluable insights, strategies, and tools to heal these divisions and restore personal freedom and societal well-being. Whether you're a concerned citizen, a courageous leader, an influential figure, or an ambitious entrepreneur, Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours will guide you on a transformative journey. Discover your unique role in creating a brighter future for yourself and society at large. Dr. David Gruder will draw upon his extensive knowledge and experience to provide practical solutions for shaping the world we live in. With his passionate exploration of social change, he will help you navigate through the complexities of our time and inspire you to make a meaningful impact. So, prepare yourself for an eye-opening experience as we delve deep into the heart of the matter. Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours will challenge your perspectives, ignite your imagination, and equip you with the tools you need to reimagine and redefine the world around you. The time to transform our future is now. Join us on this incredible journey and enter a new era of possibility. For more information on Dr. David Gruder and the Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, visit www.rhfy.ca. Welcome to Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, where together, we create a brighter tomorrow. Now, here is the host of Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, Dr. David Gruder.
Well, welcome back to the Reimagining Humanity's Future and Your show on Relmar's CanCom Broadcast Network, proudly broadcasting from Canada to the world. I'm your host, Dr. David Gruder, the futurist, polymath of human potential, bottleneck buster, and civilizational architect who equips leading-edge leaders, influencers, helping professionals, and you with vital resources that make it possible for humanity's most spiritually elevated future to at last emerge. The title of this episode is Reimagining Creativity Part 2, Walking Through the Doorway to Your Creative Life Force. Most people think creativity is limited to artists, musicians, writers, and so forth. But in truth, creativity is one of life's most primary organizing forces for all of us. In part 1, we established how our relationship with beauty, imagination, and the creative life force profoundly shapes our nervous system, our consciousness, our well-being, and even our ability to navigate today's increasingly stressful world. In this episode, we'll get really concrete about why none of us can afford to be disconnected from our creativity and provide really practical ways to tap into your creativity in each part of your life, even if you haven't yet fully embraced your creativity or your capacity for that. My guest returning for part 2 is Lori Morse. Lori brings together worlds that are too often separated: art, healing, and consciousness. She's practiced Chinese medicine for 35 years, spent more than 20 years as a professional artist, and is the author of 3 books providing deeper perspectives on healing and transformation. Throughout her work, she has developed a profound understanding of the relationship between intention, creativity, energy, the nervous system, and our capacity to live from greater balance and wholeness. Her award-winning paintings, or at least some of them have already received awards, are far more than visual experiences. Through botanical symbolism, layered texture, intuitive mark-making, and what she calls visual alchemy, Lori creates artwork that invites calm, deepens reflection, and connects us with the creative life force itself. As you know from part 1, if you have already viewed or listened to that, Lori also happens to be my wife, making this an especially meaningful conversation for you to eavesdrop on. I'm delighted to welcome you back once again to Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, honey.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Mm-hmm. And in this first segment, Lori and I will explore a question that almost everyone faces, whether they consider themselves creative or not. Why do so many of us feel disconnected from inspiration, beauty, and aliveness in our daily lives? And so, well, let's do this, Lori. Before we jump into things like standards of beauty and the other things we're going to be talking about, would you like to recap what we covered in part one that laid the foundation for what we're about to cover in part two?
Yeah, sure. I can make it sort of short and sweet. We talked about how most of our souls are undernourished, and our souls, the medicine for our souls is image, color, beauty, that kind of thing. And we don't give ourselves permission to actually engage in that as often as we should. And the reason it's important is because it's the bridge between our human self and our more sacred self. And our human self is all about ego and fear, and our more sacred self is more of a heart-centered self, right? And it connects us to the universal self, which is very intelligent, is very healing, and it gives us access to any possibility we want, including peace on earth. Just thought I'd throw that in. So anyway, so creativity is a bridge, and it is a medicine, and it's already coursing through our veins. I call it the creative life force. Chinese medicine calls it qi. It doesn't matter really what we call it, but it's really important that we turn toward it and cultivate a relationship with it. And creativity is one of the best ways I have found to do that.
I totally agree with you. You talk about standards of beauty. Can you unpack what those are?
Well, I just wanted to make a note that when we talk about beauty, first of all, we said this last time, is that beauty is the motivational force of the universe. That love is the essence of life, but beauty is the expression of life. So we are not talking about the standards of beauty that are set by cultures. Like in our culture, in a Western culture, there's magazine covers and airbrush, and now there's AI. And I am not talking about that standard of beauty. I'm talking about the standard of beauty that activates a heart response, or that spontaneous cry that we have when we watch something beautiful or the sunset. Nature is probably our best example of activating honest beauty. And we all have that inside of us because we are an extension of nature, just in a different form. And so what I'm inviting listeners to do is to be willing to have your soul and your heart teach you what is beautiful to you, not external standards of beauty. And more often than not, internal beauty to you isn't going to be the same as me or David or anyone else, but it will be noticeable. It will be distinct. It will be very clear to you, and it will render external beauty bars inconsequential because it's no longer your bar for beauty. And that's an important standard to, be conscious about, I think.
Wow. Okay. So the beauty is the motivational force of the universe. Love is the foundation of life. Beauty is the motivational force. And you're talking about beauty that activates a heart response, that's the activation or expression, rather, of life. Mm-hmm. And you're also making the point that because nature is our best example of beauty and we are an extension of nature, part of our responsibility is to allow our soul and our heart to teach us what beauty is for us, so that we aren't imprisoned by external standards of beauty.
Yeah. Good recap.
Cool. So how does creativity help cultivate conscious awareness of our individual and universal connection to life and nature?
Well, we said it earlier, when we're engaged intentionally in anything creative, and it doesn't have to even mean painting or sculpting. It can be a garden. It can be having a conversation with your teenager that matters, or your boss or your partner. It could be knitting, anything that, is a hands to material thing. I heard Jon Stewart say the other day that in the 90s, he was a bit out of control and lost. And and his mind was spinning all the time. I think a lot of people can relate to this today. And the only thing that settled him and brought him peace was woodworking, and he used these words. It was a hands to material thing that opened up a space for his mind to settle and for his heart and soul to come into alignment with peace. And I thought that was a beautiful way of describing how creativity can alter our energy. So I can't remember what your original question was. How creativity, because when we're engaged to it in a hand to material thing and we're purposeful about it, that is the creative life force. We can't not be in connection or be cultivating our relationship with our life force, with our higher self.
Yeah. And you also talk about the yin yang of creativity. What is the yin?
Yeah.
What is the yang? And why is dancing between them so vital?
Yeah. So in Chinese medicine, I'm going to bring in Chinese medicine for this one, is perfect health in a human body and even on the planet would be a perfect balance of yin and yang. And we haven't found our way to that yet. So yin in Chinese medical ways of understanding is everything that has substance. So it's like our tears and our synovial fluid and our cerebral spinal fluid and our blood. That's all material moisture. And yang is what we don't see, but we mentioned this last week. It's like the wind blowing the trees. There's wind, but we don't see the wind. And it's the same thing in our own bodies, is that there's this force, this life force that's pumping our blood and conducting our nerve impulses, but we don't necessarily see it. And yin nourishes yang and yang moves yin. So yin is considered our beingness. It's the feminine force. And yang is considered our doing, and it's the masculine force.
Hang on a quick second. I want to make sure that our audience understands that what we're talking about in this context, when we're mentioning feminine and masculine, we're talking about states of consciousness that exist in all human beings.
Exactly.
This is archetypal, metaphorical, not literal biology.
Right. And every form of life has a balance of masculine and feminine, or yin and yang. It's what gives us our polarity experience on this earth of opposites, right? Sun, moon, night, dark, or night, light, and all the different opposites. So in the context of creativity, in the yin part, being curious is a great place to be. So this is, we said earlier about your asking your heart what you find beautiful. That inquiry, that curiosity is a yin aspect of creativity, and your heart will, and your soul, is part involved here too. It will guide you to aspects of beauty that that will move you, and then you will know, oh, that's beauty to me, right? And giving yourself space to rest is a yin creative function. In any work of art or in music, there have to be notes and rests. There have to be, vital spaces in a work of art and resting spaces. And a human being needs the same thing. I always say there's no music without notes and rests. It has to be both. And somehow in our Western culture, we are driven to only be productive and not give ourselves the amount of rest that we need. Looking at art is a very yin function, just, viewing it and beholding it and noticing how it moves you. Letting your imagination wander. That our imagination is literally the field of spirit. And so if we take our consciousness to that field and we engage ourselves in our imagination, we're literally co-creating with life. And that's a big deal, because besides the prime directive for a human being to propagate the species, our prime directive is to co-create with life. This is why creativity becomes really important. And, accessing your purpose and just being in alignment with that, so that the choices you make and the thoughts you think and the beliefs you hold are in alignment with your purpose. Whereas the other side of the coin, the creative yang part is the doing part. And this is, putting your focus on things that are important to you and moving yourself in that direction. In terms of art, it's developing your style or your voice if you're an artist, but also your understanding of what's beautiful to you, right? Like that's a doingness, even though it's a beingness too. You'll find that these kind of they weave with each other. Collaborating with others is a doingness. Even collaborating with a color is a doingness. collaborating with your creative life force is a doingness. It's also a beingness. So, and then just showing up for yourself consistently. Writers will tell you just got to sit down and get your butt in the seat and write. Meditators will tell you just got to get your butt on the seat cushion and meditate. There will be good days and there'll be bad days, but showing up for yourself is part of a creative aspect of yourself, and it's really important.
Well, the rest of this episode, we're going to be diving into the ins and outs of accessing your creativity in deeper ways than you're likely to have been exposed to before. The first of which is to simply pay attention to rests, pay attention to when you're noticing beauty, and let yourself really receive and be nourished by that. After a short break, my guest, creative consciousness guide Lori Morse, and I will dig beneath the surface to expose more of tips around creative partnership, around embodying your creativity. I'm Dr. David Gruder. This is the Reimagining Humanity's Future in Your show on the CanCom Broadcast Network. And stay tuned because practical ways to access your creativity are on the way.
Are you looking for handcrafted quality that will stand the test of time? At Benchland Woodworking, beautiful wood creations are built with skill, passion, and attention to detail. From custom furniture and home decor to unique handcrafted pieces, every project is designed to bring warmth, character, and lasting beauty to your home. Whether you're searching for a one-of-a-kind gift or a custom piece made just for you, Benchland Woodworking delivers craftsmanship you can see and quality you can trust. Visit benchlandwoodworking.ca. Benchland Woodworking, handcrafted quality, timeless design, built to last. That's benchlandwoodworking.ca.
Welcome back. Before the break, my guest, creative life force philosopher and facilitator Lori Morse, and I discussed the importance of that interplay between the notes and the rests, the yin and the yang. And in this segment, we're going to explore the impacts of creativity on how we can show up in all parts of our life. But where I want to continue from is this question: why is creativity our prime directive beyond propagation of our species, and why is co-creating with life so crucial?
Yeah, well, I think we could just say it all in the co-creating with life. The purpose of incarnating into a physical form is to co-create with life, and so we didn't come here to tear the planet apart and be not good enough and be in turmoil. We came here to co-create with life. And there are, I think it's important for people to know, even though it's hard to see, we're going through a transitional phase between how it's been for a lot of centuries to an elevation of the experience of life. And not everyone can believe that. But for those of us who do know that, it's our job to hold that vision. And that's why building the creative muscle is important, because it opens up our ability as a human being to see that there are more options and more possibilities for us to live into. There was something I was just going to say here, and I lost my train of thought on it. I'll have to come back to it. But
Sure.
Yeah, we're designed to influence and elevate all of life in beautiful ways. And that is not happening, in on a large scale. So I think that the best muscle to build is our creative muscle, so that we can discover what it actually feels like in our body, because all of this has to happen in an embodied way. We can't be disconnected. We can't be only in our head. We have to be in our heart and in our body and in our, all of our energy centers have to be open and connected. And that is what gives us the capacity to play and receive, I know what I was going to say, receive patterns of perfection, because they're already in the airwaves, they're in our cells, and we don't know what they are because we're too busy being distracted. And creativity causes a type of focus that gives us access to those patterns of perfection, to a blueprint for wholeness, not only for ourselves individually, but for all of life.
Wow. Okay. And so, yes, we came here to co-create with life, not to ignore it, not to dominate it, not to destroy it. And
Exactly.
there are more options for us to live into with creativity than most of us realize. And elevating life in beautiful ways is essentially the prime directive, if you will.
Yeah.
And then you were also saying, and I think this really bears more detail, expressing our creative muscles requires embodiment, not just our head.
Right.
Because if we're not in embodiment, we can't really receive patterns of perfection and respond to patterns of perfection. And the doorway into that you mentioned into receiving is to stop busy being distracted.
Exactly. And one of the quickest ways to access an embodied awareness is a breath. We always come back to a breath. I think we mentioned mindfulness last time. And if you're lost in your head and you're spinning and you're not even sure what next step to take, if you take a breath or two where you drop your awareness into your heart, or even deeper, like into your root center, or notice your feet and, wiggle your toes a little bit so you can actually feel your feet, it pulls your awareness into your body. And there's a different capacity to receive and get access to the intelligence of life when we're in our body. Our mind will never let us have that. And that's the part of our humanity that is coming to a rebirth. And the rebirth has to include our heart, and it has to include our body.
Right. And I'm going to make a side comment about that for those who are tuning into this episode that might be pushing back in their minds a little bit against the head, because they're very head based.
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to say explicitly is we are not ever talking about leaving our heads behind.
Correct.
We're talking about our head being in right relationship with our heart and our spirit, where instead of our head running the show, the tail wagging the dog, our head is in service to everything that you were just describing.
Exactly. And here's the curious thing. When we're only in our head, it completely excludes our body. But when we're in our body, it includes our head. So then it becomes this synergistic, co-creative partnership that works way better. So, and when we're engaged in a creative experience, that hand to material thing that was mentioned in the last segment, it includes our body. And that's a training. And that's why a creative experience is one of the best training grounds I know to build that muscle. Right. And then you have access to it whenever you need it.
Yes. And what you're talking about right now is essentially embodied spirit. So there are some people who are so focused on the ethereal, on the transcendent, on what is often referred to as spirit, that they aren't grounded. They're not in the world. They're not in their body. And there are other people who are so body attached and body focused that they've left their spirit behind. And what I want to make sure is very clear in this episode is that what we're talking about here is the combination of both, which I just shorthanded as embodied spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting that people think that the matter that we are aren't, that it isn't a part of spirit. It actually is that. I mean, spirit is matter embodied. Spirit is matter, in form, and we embody that. And so our job as a human is to acknowledge and recognize and operate and act from that knowing and that livingness.
Yes, yes. And the other thing I want to come back to and underscore that you were saying, because this is another concrete tip for tapping into creativity in a deeper way. And we'll get into a lot more tips in the next segment.
We will,
But
yeah.
don't underestimate the power of coming back to breath.
Yeah.
And through that, allowing yourself to drop your awareness into your heart, your root center, your feet, because this is what opens our capacity to receive the intelligence of life.
Exactly. And the intelligence of life is creative by nature.
Yeah.
I'll just keep reminding us of that, right? We're actually not trying to figure anything out. We're just remembering who we are.
Mhm.
And that kind of helps, it's like, oh, if I just still myself for enough breaths, in those moments of breath, I will remember a larger truth than what I've been believing up until now. And
Yes.
that's very valuable.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It reminds me of something that's said in A Course in Miracles, which is that this material, that course, is not about teaching us how to love. It is about helping us remove our blocks to the awareness of love's presence.
Exactly. And that's a good thing to say. You mentioned spirit and matter, and the truth is, the higher truth is that all of that is the same stuff. Where you're using these words, chi and creative life force and spirit and matter and humanity and divinity and, all breath and all, but all of it is the same thing. And so the more willing we are to align ourselves to all of that and not live in separation of any of it, the easier our life will be. That actually is the ultimate ending of suffering, is when we live in that much of an alignment with all of life.
That's really important, and I want to encourage our audience to really take that in. What you described is a formula for ending suffering.
Right.
In the phase of my career for a couple of decades where there was room in and among everything else that I do to provide psychotherapy, I had a sign in my office that said, "Misery is optional."
Yeah.
And suffering is optional would be another way of saying that.
Yeah.
And when I would meet with someone for the first time, I would watch their eyes for when their eyes fell on that sign to notice their reaction. And some people, when their eyes fell on that sign, their reaction would be, "Oh, it really is. Misery really is optional, isn't it?" And other people, when they would see the sign, they would freeze like deer in the headlights. And I would have to say to those people, "Don't worry about it. Believing that misery is optional too."
Right, exactly. Yeah. And this is an important thing because the mind will hijack this thing. Like if it isn't like a switch that we flip and then all of a sudden suffering is gone. We will still encounter little things all day long. The thing that shifts is that we notice it, we don't resist it, and we let it flow through. And if we don't do that, then we're in a quicksand of suffering. And if we keep going on days and days, and then now we have a full-blown story about it. You know what I mean? So it's just really about checking ourselves, staying present and in connection. And this is why creativity helps, because we have to be present, we have to focus, and we have to stay in connection in our embodied self, not in our mind. I'm talking about when we drop in and be in our human, in our heart and soul and body. Then it teaches us how to do this when things happen in life. And I think that's valuable.
Well, you just touched on something else that I think is very juicy, and I think we can only discuss this in a very brief way right now, which has to do with storytelling, internal storytelling. The stories we tell ourselves is a form of creativity.
Right.
And And we can either use that creativity to tell ourselves and believe stories that reinforce blocking our heart and blocking our spirit, or we can tell ourselves stories that open our heart and our spirit. We and only we are responsible for the
Correct.
stories we tell ourselves and the creativity we bring to bear on those stories.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a perfect example of how we could use our creativity. Oh, I'm in my worry mode. I have people tell me all the time, "Oh, I'm a worrier. My mom was a worrier." It's like I don't buy that. It's like, yeah, well, you've practiced it, so it's a habit and now it's very familiar to you, but you don't have to keep doing that. You can use your creative life force and change the story, change the imagery.
And yes, and the reason that I bring that up is because all of us are storytelling machines.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that because since all of us are storytelling machines, all of us are creative. We're already being creative. There's no
Yeah,
such thing as I'm not creative. We're already doing it. So
exactly.
after
All day
the
long. Yeah.
yes, after the upcoming short break, we'll get to the heart of the matter, which is more specific ways than we've already covered to live in fuller and more consistent partnership with the creative life force. I'm
Yes.
Dr. David Gruder. This is the Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours show on the CanCom Broadcast Network, proudly broadcasting from Canada to the world. And stay right where you are, because we're about to drop a bunch of specific ways to tap into creativity in each part of your life.
Are you looking for handcrafted quality that will stand the test of time? At Benchland Woodworking, beautiful wood creations are built with skill, passion, and attention to detail. From custom furniture and home decor to unique handcrafted pieces, every project is designed to bring warmth, character, and lasting beauty to your home. Whether you're searching for a one-of-a-kind gift or a custom piece made just for you, Benchland Woodworking delivers craftsmanship you can see and quality you can trust. Visit benchlandwoodworking.ca. Benchland Woodworking, handcrafted quality, timeless design, built to last. That's benchlandwoodworking.ca.
We're back. Before the break, creativity embodiment catalyst. I just invented another
Yeah,
phrase for you.
endless.
I know. Lori Morris and I touched on how creativity influences every aspect of our lives without exception. And as I mentioned in this segment, we'll provide even more specific tips for applying creative moments in all parts of your daily life. So, Lori, what does a daily creative practice that turns beauty and discipline look like? And
Yeah.
in other words, what are practical ways for us to become better at turning ordinary moments into creative ones in various parts of our lives?
Yeah, perfect. Is it okay if I just talk about the influences of creativity in personal, family, education, and business real quick? Or you?
That's exactly what I was hoping you would
Okay, okay,
cover,
yeah.
and then go into
So
the specific tips for
into
that.
the
Yeah.
specifics, right? So I think it's important that we all just acknowledge that creativity, because it abounds, and it's literally every particle and wave of life, that it matters to our individual health. It matters to our family. It matters to our friends, all the sphere that we have, that we influence. It matters in education. It matters in business. You could go poke around in LinkedIn right now and you will see, and this has been going on for a couple of years now, that companies, large, medium, and small, they're all looking for people who have a creative lean. This doesn't mean they have to be painters. It just means they have a relationship with their creative life force. They don't use that wording, but they'll use the word creativity or creative. People are worried about AI taking over the world, and I can tell you for a fact that human beings who access their creative self will always outdo AI. There's no soul in AI. There's no heart in AI. And so a human being that's in a creative expression will always be better than AI, and people feel that. So in case that's something you're worried about. So I would just say that a practice throughout a day would be, starting your day just acknowledging that you are a creative being and that you're in an exploration about what that means for you. And you don't have to have the answers right away. You're letting things unfold for you. I can't tell you how much our heart and soul, and this is by personal experience, and our being, our whole system loves it when we are just in this open inquiry about what's beautiful to me, what would be creatively fun for us to engage in, us meaning our whole system. But one of the things that we know, and the National Institutes of Health have a lot of research on this, and there's books now like The Art Cure, Cure, C-U-R-E, it's by a researcher in England, and Your Brain on Art. These are just a couple of the resources that are more recent, that if you were inclined and read, it would convince you, oh, I'm part of this too. Whether or not you're just one who loves to view art or you want to get engaged. But I would recommend that you do the most engagement that you are inclined to. So we already talked about breath. And one of the other things that you could doodle, so that's an easy thing to do, is if you're on Zoom or voice call, you can just make some doodles on some pieces of paper. That's a really good way of moving energy out of your body through your hand and onto a page. One of the things I love to consider is that anything that we do anything on, it's called a substrate in the art world, whether it's a canvas, a wood panel, a watercolor paper, a dinner plate, a garden bed, anything like that, right, is a substrate. And it's where we can, and so I call it an altar, like a sacred altar, A-L-T-A-R, upon which we can alter our energy, A-L-T-E-R. And what I mean by that is, if we're feeling fearful or anxious or worried or stressed or, grief, any of those energies, all of these energies, trauma, all of those can be altered upon an altar of intention, right? So just knowing that is a direction that you can move yourself into. A lot of people color in coloring books. I mean, that's an altar as well. One of the things I love to do is to take a piece of watercolor paper and watercolor pencils. These are very inexpensive supplies if you want to just grab some on Amazon and have them around, and write on the watercolor paper what's bothering you. It's kind of like a journal page, but it's different, and you'll see why in just a moment. And use all the colors that appeal to you. Let your heart pick out the color, right? Because all colors have qualities that are of divine nature, and we can talk about that if we have time. But nonetheless, just pick the colors that you're feeling attracted to. Write your thing on the piece of watercolor paper. Take a sponge or a paintbrush and then blur it. And while you're doing that, you're asking your soul to transform. You're asking your heart and your higher self to transform this energy into something more serving for you. And then you can either rewrite your story about it, because we were talking about being story-making machines, or you could collage things out of a magazine that represent where you're moving yourself toward. That is one of the best ways to move your mental and emotional energy. And you'll notice, if you do it a few times, you'll notice, oh, just like John Stewart said, something opens and I have a quieter mind and I have access to more peace, right? If you're worried about, one of the things you can do if you have a physical thing, and I've done this a lot, like if, let's say your foot hurts, you can put your foot on a piece of paper and just trace your foot and color that. But ask the intelligence of your foot, what do you need? What are you trying to tell me? If it's in pain, right? Pain is a blockage of the flow of life force. So if there's pain anywhere in our body, it's something that we're either doing or not doing that needs to change. So
I think we temporarily lost Lori, but she's coming back now. There you are.
Okay. Yeah. Be in a dialogue with yourself about that part of your body that's in pain. That's the inquiry. That's the curiosity that we talked about earlier. And color it, or I can't tell you how many times I've done something like that and just let myself color or make marks on the page or whatever. And then the thing drops in that I need to know. And it's okay if it doesn't happen right away. Keep practicing it, and it'll eventually happen easier and easier. If you're worried about events in the world, I think one of the best, they're called prayer dots. One of the best things you can do is get a piece of paper and make little dots. You can either dip a skewer, like a barbecue skewer, the flat side in paint and make the dot, or you can use a colored pencil, or you can use your pen or your highlighter or your pencil on your desk, and just make dots while you're sort of sending forth a prayer for that part of the world that you can't influence in any way, shape, or form, but you can send energy. And it's more powerful than we have been led to believe, or that we even believe ourselves. But you'll just see how you feel. There will be more peace that comes over you for doing something like that. Do I have time for one more, the spirit?
You do.
Okay. And did you want to say something before I talk into that?
No, go ahead and talk into that, and then I'll say some things.
Yeah. So our spirit, this is the embodied part of ourselves, right? If you learn how to ground yourself energetically into Mother Earth, and then lift her energy up through you and bring it out through the top of your head and connect to the cosmic life force, the source of all life, and ask that energy to come in through the top of your head. This may sound really woo-woo, but this is a thing. For thousands of years, we have known that we are the being between Earth and the cosmic realms. And this is why we're co-creative, because we're the conduit, the vessel, the energetic form, of a physical form that gets to do the creating on the planet. So running that energy through you helps to clean your system. It can flush inflammation if you do it enough. I like to see it as light. It just gives me something to focus on. If you imagine like a waterfall of light coming in through the top of your head and flushing down through the bottoms of your feet, and then letting Mother Earth's energy come up, and just do that for several breaths. I heard the other day that life is a concentration of light energy in the multiverse, right? So we are light, we're particles of light, and we just don't know it yet. We haven't remembered that yet, because when we do, we will start wielding that light for good.
Well, you just laid mic drop after mic drop after mic drop. And so I'm going to try to do a little bit of encapsulation. Companies are looking for people who have access to their creativity. There is no question and no doubt about that. And what you also said about that I want to underscore is that having active access to creativity in the workplace makes you uncancelable by AI.
Good point. Yeah.
Right. And that was your point, and I'm just underscoring it. I will share another example about that. In Singapore, a couple of decades ago now, the school system had created a problem in the workplace. And the problem was that the school system had been shifted so that it had not helped students activate and elevate their relationship with their creativity. And the workplace was suffering because of that. So maybe now around, between 20 and 25 years before we're broadcasting this episode, Singapore made a massive shift in its school system to bring creativity back into the education process. And businesses are deeply grateful for that shift. So that's another statement in support of bringing your creativity into the workplace. You also said something about the importance of starting our day with reconnecting with our creativity, reminding ourselves that we, are creative beings. And if that's a hard thing for you to remember, then just use the reminder that we talked about in the last segment. Remember that because we are incessant inner story generators, that taking responsibility for that being true might be the kickstart, the starting place for making that morning reminder that we're creative beings credible, because there's no escaping that. And then doodling. I want to quickly comment on doodling. I was just a couple of weeks ago co-facilitating a retreat, and one of the participants is a doodler, and she was taking notes through doodling. She was creating art representations of what was being said. And yes, in her case, her art was really aesthetically pleasing, but that part didn't matter. What mattered was that she was engaging the creative side of her brain in absorbing the information, which made it deeper and more durable for her.
And that's a perfect example of the balance of yin and yang.
Yes, it is. It is. And then I also want to really emphasize the massive value of the exercise. I mean, all of your exercises, the watercolor writing and prayer dots. I mean, they're all gems. And what I want to particularly underline as well, because it doesn't require any props, is grounding yourself into Mother Earth, bringing that grounding up through you and out the top of your head into the cosmos, and then asking the wisdom of the universe to shower down on and through you like a waterfall of light. That's an exercise that any of us can do. It takes very little time, and we need no props for us, so we can access it any moment we need to reconnect. So after our upcoming break, we're going to return for this episode's final segment, during which I'll be asking Lori Morse to again go into even more ways of accessing creativity in various parts of life. And I'm going to remind you about her wonderful gift that she has for you. I'm Dr. David Gruder, clearing his throat once again. This is the Imagining Humanity's Future in Your show on the CanCom Broadcast Network, and we will return shortly.
Are you looking for handcrafted quality that will stand the test of time? At Benchland Woodworking, beautiful wood creations are built with skill, passion, and attention to detail. From custom furniture and home decor to unique handcrafted pieces, every project is designed to bring warmth, character, and lasting beauty to your home. Whether you're searching for a one-of-a-kind gift or a custom piece made just for you, Benchland Woodworking delivers craftsmanship you can see and quality you can trust. Visit benchlandwoodworking.ca. Benchland Woodworking, handcrafted quality, timeless design, built to last. That's benchlandwoodworking.ca.
Well, before the break, visual alchemist, which is one of the ways Lori refers to herself, visual alchemist Lori Morse and I discussed some ways to access creative moments in various parts of your daily life. And as I already mentioned during the final segment of this episode called Reimagining Creativity Part 2, Walking Through the Doorway to Your Creative Life Force, Lori will reveal even more tips for remaining connected with your creativity on a daily basis in various parts of your life. And I'll then let you know about the special gift Lori has for opening a deeper doorway into your creativity. And after that, Lori and I will each share what we hope you've gained from this episode, followed by my closing comments. So, Lori, what additional tips do you have that we haven't covered already?
So, yeah, I'd like to start out by offering a quote by Henri Matisse. He was an artist in the early 1900s, part of the Impressionist movement. And he has a quote that says, "The essential thing is to work in a state of mind that approaches prayer." and I'm not talking about prayer from a religious perspective. I'm talking about prayer from being aligned with our divinity, our sacred self, our higher self, our heart and our soul, all of that alignment we mentioned earlier. And it's important for us to feel happy. We can't feel happy. We can't access peace if we don't have that kind of approach. So to make it simple, and by the way, when David mentioned, if you don't remember when you get up in the morning to remind yourself that you're a creative being, put a sticky note on your bathroom mirror. I can't tell you how many years I've been putting sticky notes in places to remind me, because when I say that I'm going to remember something, in the moment, it's very true. I can't imagine not remember. And then 5 seconds later, it's gone. So if you know that to be the way it is for yourself, then drop yourself little notes so that you can remind yourself. And I think the most important thing is to give yourself some leeway and some permission to be clunky about exploring your creativity. It's a beginner's mind thing. And our human mind, and especially older adult human minds, we don't like beginning anymore. But yet having a beginner's mind and moving through that clunkiness is imperative. You won't get very far if you don't, if you aren't willing to do that. And maybe you just say to yourself, I'm going to start out for a week and I'm going to pick one of my favorite colors, and I'm just going to look for it around me. I'm going to maybe put an article of clothing that is that color on today, and tomorrow it'll be a different color. Notice cars, notice what's in nature, blooming, notice dishes, notice all the things that you end up around, and see if you notice that color. And that will activate something in you that is activating. It is creatively an activation. And then you'll just follow those breadcrumbs. Again, this is not something that you switch a switch on, like a light. It's something that you walk into one step at a time. And in the beginning, it feels a little dark and maybe unknown, but that's okay, because there's nothing that's going to hurt you. In the creative life force is as safe as it gets, right? And then the other thing is that creativity has the capacity to heal. We mentioned that in the whole watercolor thing. So I would want for you to know that when you're intentionally engaging by being connected to your heart and your soul, and having the intention that you're creating whatever you're doing, it might be a dinner, it might be a setting the table, it might be, designing your living room with different color pillows, or, anything like that. Or maybe you're just looking at art because that's something that you enjoy. There will be a small voice that comes up that says things like, you're not doing this right. You're not good at this. You're not enough to be doing this. And this is what's programmed in the matrix. And by the actual choice to create, we're deprogramming ourselves from that programming, right? So you set it up any way you want. The way I do it is when I hear those messagings, I say, I hear you, and it's not true. What's true is I'm a creative being and I'm playing right now. Nobody has criticism over a child just playing. If their finger paint's involved, no one comes up and says, you're doing that wrong. That happens a little bit later in life when we get into school. And that is what has shut a lot of people down for thinking that they do have a creative aspect to themselves, and that all of that is untrue, right? It's not true. So so I would say going and looking for and playing with colors is valuable. You may or may not know this, but there are 12 divine color rays, and they all carry qualities. So for example, green is a ray that is healing, and violet is a ray that carries forgiveness and compassion and freedom. And, magenta is a ray that carries harmony. So if you know that these colors, and you don't have to know this to pick a color tomorrow morning or right now, you just trust that this is a color that your system right now is really liking.
I'm going to stop you there just for a quick moment, because I feel a need to say that one of the things that is particularly magnificent, in my opinion, about your artwork is that you design your art pieces to activate different rays, different aspects of human creativity and human consciousness. And that kind of healing art, that kind of art that catalyzes higher consciousness, I think is rare. And I just so respect you for that gift that you bring to the world through your art.
Thank you. Thank you. And we're all getting the invitation to play at that level. You know, like your body is a canvas, so that can be one way that you know, the way you dress yourself is one way to like engage in creativity. So, and thank you for saying that. Yeah, it is very, there would be no point for me to be doing, you know, engaging and doing art if it didn't include this. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's kind of important. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that is the long and the short. The other word that I wanted to throw in here is,
Yeah.
and I think Henry Matisse and his thing about doing things in a state of mind that it feels like prayer. The other word is reverence. I think like we've lost civility in our world. I don't think it's gone. It's just been kind of set to the side. We've also lost some reverence. And to the degree that you're willing to be civil inside yourself, not divided, and have reverence for yourself and your life, the life that you're tending around you, that matters to the collective. And it makes a difference that we're choosing to sort of like be in a peaceful exchange with our creative life force rather than worry. Dave was saying, oh, you know, we're creating all the time. We just aren't acknowledging it. Worry is a form of creativity and it's not serving. So when you catch yourself doing that, and it will come up. We have long-standing habits of this. It's why I love creativity. It's more fun to catch myself feeling like I'm not good enough when I'm painting a flower than it is to, you know, in any other way. And then I can change that narrative, you know, and I do it very consciously.
Nice. And, you know, there's so much that you've said that I wish I had time to underscore. I'm just going to underscore for the moment two things. One is about the permission to be clunky.
Yeah.
Creativity access is liberation from perfectionism.
That's it. Yeah.
And worry is an example of a form of non-helpful creativity. So starting to learn how to recognize moments when you're unintentionally channeling your creativity in non-serving ways, like negativity as an example, is a really crucial bridge into accessing your creativity for more serving ways.
Yeah.
And so I need to move on into our next portion of this segment.
Okay.
Throughout our conversation in this episode, we've explored why one of our prime directives is consciously cultivating our creativity from moment to moment, and why that's so important. And I now want to remind you again, as I did in the first part of this two-part episode, about the exquisite gift Lori is providing. I'm getting choked up. Lori is providing to you to help you tap into your creativity more deeply and consistently. A complimentary collection of 5 digital works designed as daily touchstones for cultivating greater peace, beauty, and nervous system regulation. Rather than simply admiring them as beautiful works of art, which they also are, she'll provide you with ways to use them as part of simple daily practices that train your awareness toward greater calm, resilience, and wholeness. You can access your complimentary collection through this forwarder link, thecess.com/art, THECESS for the Center for Enlightened Self-Sovereignty.com/art, ART. So Lori, in a short non-run-on sentence, because that's all we've got time for, what's the big takeaway you hope our audience received from this part 2 of this 2-part series?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is that it matters that you access your creative self, whether it's to view and appreciate or to engage in, and let that grow over the span of your life, and realize that it's a bridge so that you bring your humanity and your divinity closer and closer together for ongoing alignment.
Beautiful. And mine is that creativity is a cornerstone of elevated living in every part of life, that every behavior can be done through your creativity without exception. So make the creative life force one of your best friends that you remain in connection with each and every day. Mr. Rogers would say, creativity is your best friend.
Mhm.
So as we move toward wrapping up this episode, I want to let you know again how to access more of Lori's art in addition to your gift of the Normalized Calm series that I was referring to earlier. The Normalized Calm series gift, again, is available through thecess.com/art, and you can view all of her art at lorimorseart.com.
That's right.
So thank you so very much, Lori, for helping us understand even more deeply during this second part of this two-part mini-series, how to deepen our ongoing access to our creative life force and why doing this is so supremely important, and for being here on my show.
My joy. Thank you.
And thank you all for joining me for this episode of Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours on the CanCom Broadcast Network, proudly broadcasting from Canada to the world. Every civilization ultimately becomes an expression of the consciousness and creativity its people cultivate. That's why Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours explores the inner capacities that shape our collective future in as much as the outer challenges we face. So until next time, practice accessing your creative life force today, and let it become a conscious act of your daily life. This has been Dr. David Gruder, the futurist polymath of human potential, bottleneck buster, and civilizational architect who equips leading edge leaders, influencers, and you with frameworks and skills that make it possible for humanity's most spiritually elevated future to at last emerge. I invite you to explore my main website, drgruder.com. That's drgruder.com, where you can find a link to this show's episodes and to other resources. The world needs you. Your nation needs you. Your community needs you. Your loved ones need you. Your business needs you. You need you. So until next time, keep elevating your capacity to fulfill your highest calling, so together we succeed at building an elevated future for ourselves and for humanity.